All right, welcome back to the Arise with Anita podcast. This one might sting before it actually soothes, but if you're in a season of life where you feel like you're being cracked open, I want you to know something. You're not crazy. There are no coincidences. You're being called to a higher version of you, a higher, more in tune version of yourself. But before we get into that, today we're going to be talking about triggers. Not as setbacks, but as maybe sacred signals. The moments that feel like they're breakdowns, but are actually building you to your next level. So, this episode is definitely not motivational in any context. However, it is a sacred return to the self. And as I'm in a season where I'm constantly expanding, I've had quite a bit of growth over the last 12 weeks. I am in this season where I've been triggered multiple times. And the general gist of triggers usually is that they're bad. But for me, what I've come to find, your triggers are not your enemy. They're a mirror of what it is that you need to work on. And if you weren't actually ready to see it, to work on it, you would not notice this. Triggers are essentially your nervous system responding, saying, hey, something needs attention. It needs your awareness. It needs your love. So I want you to slow down for a moment when you feel that trigger. Because so often we look at triggers, especially if they're something in our external circumstance, and we look at them going, this situation is wrong. This person is wrong. And my challenge to you today is how about looking at what is it about the situation or this circumstance or the relationship that's actually causing me to feel this response within my body or this agitation, the frustration. So recently, I've been in a huge growth period. I think I already mentioned that. And I'm in this course that's been all about prosperity. I'm working with a mentor right now that's been what I call soul punching me because when he speaks, it just goes direct to the gut of your soul and your heart. But in our course, I had this kind of realization where he was talking about worthiness and how that directly impacts your flow of abundance. Not a new concept at all. But if you want to talk about triggers, there was a specific line he threw at me where, for me personally, it had me sit back and start analyzing just everything that you could imagine. And I'm going to just throw this at you because likely there's someone who needs to hear it. Who you believe you are is how you allow others to treat you. And for me, that showed up not in just my relationship with money, but in the relationship I had with family, friends. And I remember sitting there going, why am I so triggered by this statement? and looking at it and eventually crying about it because I started to see in all the ways I was starting to accept breadcrumbs where I should have not necessarily tolerated. I had lower standards. I was being, mm, and this is the real and raw. I was being overly giving, but not looking at how I was being treated back within those relationships. Mm. Sorry, I'm taking a moment. I think there's a beauty in actually having a share this real, this raw with you guys, though, because I think so often we look at the success of people that we admire and are building. And what I've come to realize, especially as I've gotten closer with some of my mentors, is it doesn't matter what level you are, you hit a certain threshold. We all are on this journey of growing, of learning, and we have these rewirings we need to do within our identity at regardless of the level. So when it comes to our nervous system, because I am huge on our nervous system being a part of our integration, your body has points within it that actually hold memories. They store your pain. And so these triggers that are coming up for us, they are not necessarily in the sense of just the mind. You usually have some sort of nervous system reaction, and that comes from an unlocked memory you might be having that you might not be able to place your finger on. You might be having that systematic reaction because of the integration of where you are. But if you actually tuned in and slowed down, I guarantee whatever's triggering you has a component of the body as well. I was just recently talking to someone again about money and our relationship with money. And my challenge was, where in your body do you feel lack or scarcity? And she kindly asked me, I think I feel it in my heart. Is that right? And I told her the same thing I'm going to tell you. When you just take a moment to slow down and tune into your body and allow it to scan, there is no right or wrong. Your body knows the answer. Where it affects you might be different than where it might be affecting me, but nonetheless, your body knows the answer. It is in tune and it is doing it in a way of protecting you. For example, this wasn't because of a trigger specifically, but I had something on my heart I wanted to say a couple of days ago. But I was in this motion of, do I craft this message or do I not? And my throat chakra, right in the throat, started contracting. And I realized the contraction was from a fear that was coming of using that message, of actually sharing what I needed to say. And until I actually first addressed it by um, closing my eyes, settling, connecting with the throat, it wasn't until I actually sat there and gave it the attention it needed, then crafted that message, that actually it calmed down. I think so often, especially in the Western world, we are completely blindsided to the fact that our bodies have these cheat codes, really. You know what's right, you know what's wrong, but so many times we try to force a wrong to make it right because we want to outlogic the actual body, mind, soul connection. Different somatic responses that can also come up. Shallow breath, feeling the need to flee, run, hide, or in some cases, fix. There's always an invitation inside our triggers if we're willing to look at them. So I would dare to ask, what is this revealing? Not just about the situation or the others involved, but more so, what is it that you believe about yourself? What is it that it's bringing inside of yourself? It's not just what happened, it's what's the part of you that it touched inside. So there's 3 tips I want to give you on how to work with your triggers rather than against them. We're going to start off with just take a pause. When you feel the trigger reaction coming up, don't react. I invite you get curious. Start to track it somatically. Where do I feel it in my body? Can I actually stay with this feeling rather than trying to distract from it? Remembering the part of you that might actually need to reparent in that moment. What does the her, the version of myself that is already processing this, choose here? You don't need to fix it, but you do need to feel it without letting it come out of your patterns and your power. So, what if your next level of power, self trust, the connection you have with others and yourself, isn't in the pushing through, but rather in pouring and pausing and finally listening to yourself? I would dare to say you're not actually broken, though sometimes we believe we are. You're just being invited into a deeper integration, a deeper understanding. So if you're feeling it rise in your chest right now, don't just think about it. Come move it through. Join me for the her session, which is a guided somatic experience to help your body release what your mind is circling with. We will combine coaching and breath work so that you're able to breathe, feel, and come home to your next level self. And until next Tuesday's episode, feel free to connect with me on Instagram or Facebook, whatever your preferred social is. I would love to hear your thoughts. And until the next one, have a good evening, afternoon, morning, whenever you're listening to this.